The Knicks are finally going to get a star. Let's get into this. As we all know, the recent history of the New York Knicks has been pretty rough. Over the years, they weren't able to hire the right people in the right positions, and they also weren't able to draft properly, which is the most important thing you can do as an organization. And even if they were to draft someone who is decently good and had potential in this league, they wasted it away because they weren't able to hire the right head coaches to really get those players going and get adjusted to the league to really have a chance to be decent in the league. When you look at an organization like the Golden State Warriors, which I like to look at, they have a great culture there, they have a great head coach, and when they draft talent, it's usually later in the first round, and they're not drafting necessarily the best talent in the draft, but you see the guys that they bring in, they usually perform pretty well because they have a great developmental part to their organization in terms of their coach, their assistant coaches. They just have a great organization. And when you look at that contrast to the New York Knicks, they never had a great head coach. They weren't able to develop talent even though they were drafting very high in the lottery. And when you look at the Knicks and say they were literally bad every single year and they draft high in the lottery, but they weren't able to draft and they also weren't able to develop their talent, so how would they ever expect to win? Which is a great question. Their answer to that would be they're always looking in the free agent market and they're looking to get the top free agent every single year. But now another question would be, how would you expect to get any free agents when you're terrible every single year? You have a terrible organization, you have a terrible head coach, your young players aren't developing, you're not drafting the right young players. How are you ever expecting to get any superstar to come there? And their answer to that question would be the Knicks of course play in New York, and New York sells itself to the superstars. But if we learned anything throughout the years is that's 100% not true. Superstars have not come to the Knicks obviously for years now because the Knicks organization has been terrible. They haven't been able to draft, and for all those reasons these superstar players would rather go to another city and another team rather than going to the Knicks and dealing with that whole problem. And for years now it's been the same cycle. It would be the Knicks can't draft of course, but they give their fans hope going into the free agency market, telling them that they can get the top star. They don't end up getting that star, everybody's depressed. It's the same cycle over and over again, and they never improve their people that they hire. They never improve their head coach. They fire a million head coaches and bring worse head coaches in after them. They just can't develop talent. It's just a mess over there for years now. But finally, after years, things started to really turn around ever since they hired President Leon Rose. Leon was finally starting to hire the right people in the right situations, and he was doing everything very diligently. He was taking his time with all the hires. He was hiring the right people in every single position, even in positions that you wouldn't think matter, positions that you never even heard of in your life before, but he was hiring the right guys in every single position, and he ended up hiring Tom Thibodeau to the head coaching position, which was criticized when it first happened. The main criticism of Tom Thibodeau, of course, as we all know, is he's known for running guys into the ground by playing them way too many minutes, and when it comes to playoff time, they have nothing left in the gas tank and they're just not good whatsoever. Or worse yet, they can play too many minutes and potentially get injured like we saw with Derrick Rose a few times. But I think the difference between this Knicks team and other teams that Tibbs coached in the past is this Knicks team is extremely young and we're extremely motivated coming into the season, working extremely hard in the offseason, especially when you talk about Julius Randle, and they're in the best shape of their life. When you're talking about Julius, they're able to play these minutes because they're younger, they're in great shape, and I think that's why Tibbs was able to get away with it this season without any real hiccups. But also on top of that, as I mentioned before in the past, the Knicks were never able to hire the right head coaches, so they weren't able to develop their young talent. But contrast to that, ever since they hired Tom Thibodeau, we saw the improvement of so many young players. Julius Randle was the biggest improvement, and he obviously won Most Improved Player of the Year. Also, RJ Barrett this season took an extremely good step towards being a superstar in this league, hopefully. Also, Emmanuel Quickley, who's a rookie, had an amazing season for them. Obi Toppin was coming along later into the season. All their young guys basically improved this year if they were on the team last year, or the rookies also played extremely well for the Knicks. Everyone just improved, which is great to see, and a huge testament to what Tom Thibodeau was able to do this season. And this season, under head coach Tom Thibodeau, we all saw what he was able to do with this group of guys. Finally, we saw progress from the New York Knicks. Coming into this season, not only were the Knicks not supposed to make the playoffs, they were only projected to get 24 wins this season. But not only did they make the playoffs this year, they were actually the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference, so they well overperformed this season. But not only were the New York Knicks finally winning this season, they were winning with players that they drafted and young and ascending players, which is really showing progress for this organization. And now what this is showing to free agents is the Knicks could finally draft players, they can develop players, and now that the players that they drafted are really developing extremely well, you're telling free agents that if they come here, they're going to be winning for a while because the main guys they have on their roster right now are all players that they drafted themselves and are extremely young, of course, and have plenty of years left in their careers. And now when you talk about their organization is good, the young players are finally good, they're drafting better young players, they're developing those young players once they're getting them. Now when you talk about all that on top of you're talking about the New York Knicks and the historic franchise that they've been and the fact that they're in New York, now I think it's going to be much easier to attract free agents in free agency and actually get one of these players. But with that being said, I don't think the New York Knicks are going to do what they did in the past and completely give up on their young core that they have right now that's going extremely well for them and just be desperate to get a superstar in free agency. I don't think they're going to do that. I think if the right free agent comes around and they're able to acquire him, I think they would put him on top of the young core that they've built so far and really build a team going forward in the future. If in the future they're able to get a super team and get 2 or 3 superstars, I think at that point they would trade their young talent for other pieces or maybe for those superstars. But if it was only one guy that they were able to get in free agency, I don't think they would be desperate for him and completely give up on all their young guys. I think they would keep them all together, which is of course a smart move. But when you look around the league and the top players and you ask them what's their favorite arena to play in, most of them would actually say the Madison Square Garden's their favorite arena to play in. So that's already something going for you when you're talking about free agents, and on top of that now your organization is run well. That's a big reason why I think the Knicks have a great chance to finally get one of those big fish and get a superstar to come to their team in free agency. I really think they finally figured it out, and it's very good for the NBA as well. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think the New York Knicks are finally going to get a superstar, or do you think the Knicks are just going to do what they do best and just not do well whatsoever and not get a superstar? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe and hit that post notification bell. It really helps me out a lot. Until the next time, peace out guys.